If you're thinking about hiring more people, adding new offers, or expanding because things finally feel busy, this episode is for you. Growth, it feels exciting, but growth without readiness creates strain. And today we're talking about why scaling too early often breaks businesses instead of building them, and how to know if you're ready. Because expansion and sustainability are not the same thing.
You're listening to the Off Balance Podcast, where faith, family, and business collide. Hosted by Demming, Doctor of Business Administration, business coach, and resilience expert. Each episode features real-life conversations to help entrepreneurs like you build resilience and lead with confidence.
Welcome back to Off Balance. I'm your host, Dr. Brooks. HR strategist, researcher, and business coach focused on structure, leadership, and sustainable performance. This season has been about clarity. We're talking about founder bottlenecks, role confusion, HR risk, motivation, and systems. Today, we're talking about scaling, not the highlight reel version, the operational version, the version that determines whether growth strengthens your business or exposes its weaknesses. Most entrepreneurs rush to scale because they confuse activity with sustainability. Revenue increases, referrals increases, opportunities increases, and the thought becomes, if I don't expand now, I'll miss the momentum. But urgency is not readiness. Let me give you a case example. I worked with a service-based founder whose revenue doubled in one quarter. She was fully booked and overwhelmed. She believed the solution was immediate hiring. So she brought on 3 contractors in 60 days. Here's what didn't exist: no documented onboarding process, no written client delivery workflow, no decision thresholds, no defined performance standards. Everything lived in her head. Within 4 months, clients' experience became inconsistent. Refund requests increased. Contractors required constant clarification. Her working hours expanded instead of shrinking. Scaling magnified the lack of structure. That's what scaling does. It multiplies whatever already exists. If confusion exists, scaling multiplies confusion. If weak systems exist, scaling exposes them. If role ambiguity exists, scaling creates tension. Growth does not correct instability. It accelerates it. Let's define readiness. Readiness is not feeling busy, having new ideas, getting attention, seeing a temporary revenue spike. Readiness is operational predictability. It looks like revenue consistency over time, clear roles definitions, documented processes, defined decision authority, stable operations without daily firefighting. Here's another example. A founder came to me convinced she needed more staff. She felt stretched and reactive. When we evaluated her workflow, we discovered no standardized processes, no task ownership clarity, no documented delegation structure. Instead of hiring, we strengthened operations. We documented processes, assigned ownership, defined escalation points. Within 30 days, she recovered nearly 12 hours per week. No new hires required. Sometimes scaling isn't about expansion, it's about refinement. If your business still depends on you for every decision, hiring someone else will stretch you thinner, not free you. From an HR perspective, scaling without structure almost always produces the same set of problems. It's predictable. When founders move quickly to hire because the business feels busy or revenue is increasing, the focus is usually on filling a role and not defining it. The urgency is understandable. Work is piling up, the founder is stretched thin, and bringing someone in feels like relief. But when hiring happens faster than the infrastructure that supports it, several patterns begin to show up. Job descriptions are vague or copied from somewhere online and never customized to the actual needs of the business. Training becomes informal. New hires are expected to pick things up as they go or learn by watching the founder. Expectations are implied rather than clearly communicated. Policies don't exist yet because the business has been operating on trust and flexibility. At first, it seems manageable. Everyone is trying their best, and the team is small enough to communicate constantly. But as soon as more people join the organization, those gaps begin to show. New hires don't know what success looks like in their role. They may be working hard, but they are guessing about priorities. Managers or founders begin giving feedback that feels inconsistent because the standards were never defined in the first place. Performance conversations start to feel personal instead of objective because there are no documented expectations to reference, and eventually turnover starts increasing. Not because the people were bad hires, but because the environment lacked clarity. I worked with a small firm that hired 5 people within a single quarter. From the outside, it looked like growth. The business was expanding, revenue was increasing, and the founder was excited about building a team. Within 6 months, 3 of those employees had resigned. When I assessed what happened, the feedback from the team was consistent. One person said, I didn't know what I was accountable for. Another said, expectations kept shifting depending on the week. And someone else said, I wasn't sure how my performance was being evaluated. Those responses tell you something important. That situation wasn't a hiring problem, it was a clarity problem. People are far more likely to succeed when they understand 3 things: what they own, how success is measured, and how their work contributes to the larger goal of the organization. Without those elements, even talented employees struggle to perform because they are constantly trying to interpret the expectations instead of executing them. This is why HR systems are not something you install after growth. They are the foundation that makes growth sustainable: clear job scopes, defined performance metrics, structured onboarding, documented processes, consistent feedback loops. Those things may not feel exciting in the early stages of building a business. They don't create headlines or social media buzz, but they are exactly what allows a company to scale without burning out the founder and confusing the team. Structure doesn't slow down growth, it stabilizes it. Now, let's address something that doesn't get discussed enough. Scaling decisions are often emotional. We tend to believe expansion decisions are purely strategic based on numbers, projections, and demand. But many times they're driven by fear of plateauing, fear of missing an opportunity, fear of being left behind while other businesses appear to be growing faster. When you constantly see stories of rapid growth and overnight success, it can create quiet pressure to keep accelerating. But not every opportunity is an assignment, and saying yes to expansion prematurely can destabilize that very business you're trying to build. There is a difference between strategic growth and reactive growth. Strategic growth feels steady, it's intentional and aligned with your systems and capacity. Reactive growth feels frantic, it's rushed and driven by urgency. And where growth decisions are driven by urgency, clarity often disappears. Growth should increase capacity, not chaos. Let me give you a perspective from education. In education, we never move learners forward without mastery of foundational skills. A student doesn't move into an advanced math if they still struggle with basic concepts. A reader doesn't move into complex comprehension if fluency hasn't been developed yet. Why? Because gaps widen under pressure. When the foundation isn't strong, advanced work doesn't create progress, it creates frustration. The same principle applies in business. If the operational foundation of business is fragile, expansion will expose it. More clients increase demand, more revenue increase expectations, more team members increase complexity. And the gaps that were manageable at a smaller level suddenly becomes impossible to ignore. Gaps don't disappear when you grow, they expand. So instead of asking the question most entrepreneurs ask, how do I grow faster? Try asking a better question. What needs to be strengthened first? Healthy growth follows preparation. Here are a few questions worth asking yourself. Are roles clearly defined within your business? Do team members know what they are responsible for, or does everything still route back to you? Are your processes documented, or are they mostly living inside your head? Is your revenue predictable enough to support expansion? Is decision authority clear across your organization? And here's one of the most revealing questions of all. Could your business operate for a week without you? Not perfectly, but functionally. If the answer is no, scaling will increase pressure rather than freedom because every new client, new employee, and new opportunity adds more complexity. Strong systems make scaling predictable. When readiness exists, expansion feels smooth. When readiness doesn't exist, expansion feels overwhelming. Growth shouldn't feel like survival, it should feel like increased capacity. Here's an important reframe. Scaling doesn't fix problems, it reveals them. If your business already feels overwhelming at its current size, doubling your revenue will likely double the strain. More decisions, more expectations, more moving parts. Readiness isn't about speed, it's about sustainability. Strong businesses grow intentionally, not impulsively. They strengthen their structure before expansion forces them to. Because when the foundation is solid, growth becomes far less fragile. If you're listening right now and wondering whether your business is ready to scale, this is exactly what we evaluate inside the Business and HR Clarity. This isn't a motivational session. It's a structured assessment designed to evaluate how your business operates. Inside the audit, we look at operational readiness, revenue consistency, role clarity, process gaps, decision flow, leadership capacity. By the end, you will leave with clarity about your next step, whether you should hire, refine your systems, restructure parts of the business, or whether you are ready to scale. Because expansion without clarity is expensive, and guessing your way through growth is risky. If you want to build something sustainable, not just busy, you can book the audit using the link in the description of this episode. In the next episode, we're going to talk about faith, stewardship, and why order in business is not optional, especially when you want to grow responsibly. Until then, remember this: growth without structure creates pressure, structure creates room to grow. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Please rate this episode and share it with your family and friends. To learn more about your host or to book a coaching session, visit www.brooksdemming.com. Until next time, rise.
Hi, I'm Tiffany of Tiffany Brown Designs. With over 20 years of creative experience across industries, I create and elevate brands one design at a time through intentional graphic and brand design, polished film and video editing, and creative artistry. Even the music you're hearing right now, that was produced by me. I also create custom tracks for websites, intros and outros, and content. So what are you waiting for? Visit TiffanyCBrownGD.com and let's bring your vision to life.